Listen carefully. This is not the season to explain yourself. This is not the moment to defend your name, correct the record, or speak your truth to those who have already decided not to hear it. If you feel a strange pressure in your spirit right now, a pull to remain silent even when everything in you wants to speak, that is not weakness, that is instruction. And it is clear, hold your tongue. This silence is not punishment, it is positioning. You would not be hearing this if your life were ordinary. You would not feel this inner tension if you were not marked for something different. You are not confused without reason. You are not isolated by accident. You are what many fear but cannot name. You are chosen, not in the arrogant sense, but in the burdened sense. Chosen to carry weight, chosen to walk ahead of others, chosen to endure misunderstanding without immediate vindication, and chosen to learn restraint when your soul burns with things you could say. Think back for a moment. Think about how many times you were misunderstood, not because you were wrong, but because others could not reach the altitude of your perception. How often your intentions were questioned, your motives twisted, your silence interpreted as guilt, and your kindness mistaken for weakness. You tried explaining once, maybe twice. You told yourself, if they only knew my heart, everything would change. And yet the more you spoke, the more distorted the story became. That was not coincidence. That was pattern. And now that pattern has reached its breaking point. The betrayal did not come from strangers, did it? It came from people who had access to you, people who heard your fears, watched you build from nothing, witnessed your prayers when no one else was around. Those were the ones who smiled in your face and doubted you in absence. The ones who benefited from your light and then resented you for having it. And the pain wasn't just that they turned on you, it was that they did it while claiming love, while wearing familiarity like a disguise. You questioned yourself in those moments. You replayed conversations in your head. You wondered if you said too much or trusted too deeply. That self-doubt was heavy, and it lingered far longer than you expected. But understand this with clarity now. The confusion was never proof that you were wrong. It was evidence that you were awakening while others remained asleep. And awakening always disrupts relationships built in darkness. There is a reason you are being instructed to stay quiet now. You are standing at the edge of a shift that does not require your words. It requires your obedience. Speaking prematurely would dilute what is forming. Explaining yourself would interfere with what is being arranged on your behalf. There are forces at work that cannot operate while you are emotionally entangled in public defense. Silence in this moment is not passive. It is active trust. You may not realize it yet, but what feels like stillness is actually separation. You are being removed from old patterns of reaction, from the need to be understood, from the compulsion to prove your goodness. There was a time when responding felt necessary because your identity had not yet settled. But now something deeper is anchoring you. You are learning that your worth does not fluctuate with public opinion, and that lesson changes everything. This silence is refining you. It is revealing who panics when they no longer have access to your energy. It is exposing who relied on your reactions for validation. Some people only felt powerful when they could provoke you. Others felt safe as long as you kept explaining yourself, because your explanations delayed your elevation. And now that you've stopped talking, they feel the loss of control. That discomfort you sense around you. That is not your imagination. That is the beginning of a reversal. You have carried pain quietly for a long time. You kept going while grieving versions of yourself that were never allowed to fully breathe. You smiled through exhaustion. You gave understanding when no one extended it to you. And in private moments, you asked why the road had to be so lonely, why integrity cost you more than it seemed to cost others. Those questions were heard. None of it was wasted. Not one tear, not one moment of restraint. There is divine intelligence in timing, and right now, timing is protecting you. If you spoke everything you see, everything you know, everything you sense forming beneath the surface. You would disrupt the exposure that is already unfolding. Truth does not always need a loud messenger. Sometimes truth reveals itself through absence, through outcomes, through undeniable shifts that no voice could manufacture. That is why you feel the urge to withdraw, to observe instead of react, to listen instead of argue. You are being trained to let reality speak for you, to allow character, consistency, and consequence to do the talking. There is power in being misunderstood temporarily when you know clarity is inevitable, and clarity is inevitable now. You may feel like nothing is happening, but something is aligning quietly behind the scenes. Conversations are being had without your presence. Perceptions are changing without your input. What once required effort is now being handled without your interference. And the restraint you practice today becomes the authority you walk in tomorrow. This is not suppression. This is maturation. So if you feel the urge to explain, pause. If you want to send that message, wait. If you feel tempted to defend your name, breathe. This moment is asking you to trust that your journey is being stewarded with precision, that the same force that carried you through confusion is now clearing the path ahead. You are not late, you are not forgotten, and you are certainly not losing. Hold your tongue, not because you are powerless, but because the power has outgrown the need to speak. This is not the time to talk. This is the time to watch, to ground, and to let what has been hidden rise on its own. And as this settles into you, you will begin to sense it. The quiet certainty that something irreversible has already begun. What you have survived was never small, even if others tried to minimize it. The battles you fought were not the kind that leave visible wounds. They were internal wars, fought in silence, where every step forward required faith, while doubt pressed in from all sides. You learned how to stand your ground while feeling spiritually outnumbered. You learned how to keep moving when encouragement was scarce and opposition was disguised as concern. These were not ordinary struggles. They were initiations. There were moments when it felt as if life itself was testing your resolve. Delay after delay, doors that almost opened, then slammed shut, promises that seemed close enough to touch, only to drift farther away. And through it all, you were asked to keep your heart clean while surrounded by misunderstanding. That alone required immense strength. Anyone can stay kind when life is kind back, but you were forced to cultivate integrity while under pressure, to choose restraint while being provoked, to resist becoming hardened in environments designed to break you. This is where your real power was proven, not in loud victories, but in endurance, not in public triumph, but in private discipline. Every time you chose not to retaliate, something within you sharpened. Every time you walked away from conflict instead of escalating it, you preserved a version of yourself that many lose forever. And even though it looked like you were backing down, you were actually ascending. You were learning mastery over impulse, emotion, and ego. That mastery is rare, and it is feared. Do not mistake the opposition you faced as evidence of your weakness. Opposition is drawn to potency. You disturbed systems simply by existing outside of them. You refused to be fully controlled, even when compliance would have made life easier. You asked questions others were afraid to ask. You sensed corruption where others settled for comfort. And that kind of awareness always provokes backlash. People do not attack what poses no threat. Understand this clearly now. Nothing you went through escaped divine awareness. Every lie spoken behind your back, every plan made without your knowledge, every attempt to undermine you while smiling to your face. You were not overlooked. The quiet of heaven should not be mistaken for indifference. Some accounts are allowed to fill before they are answered. Some scales are allowed to tip fully before they are corrected. And right now, the weight has shifted. Those who doubted you are beginning to feel it. Not necessarily consciously, but energetically. The same people who once felt empowered speaking over you now sense a change they cannot explain. Conversations feel heavier. Your absence is louder than your presence ever was. And the narratives they crafted are no longer holding up under scrutiny. Something is unraveling, and they feel it. Fear has replaced arrogance. Restlessness has replaced certainty. You are not imagining the subtle tremors, the tension, the awkward pauses when your name comes up, the sudden curiosity about how you're doing now that you are no longer explaining yourself. That is not concern, it is uncertainty. They are realizing that control depended on your reactions, on your willingness to engage. And now that you have withdrawn your energy, the structure they built around you has no foundation. What they don't understand is that your silence is not emptiness. It is containment. There is more authority in what you are holding than in anything you could say. Your spirit has matured beyond the need to convince, and that maturity activates something ancient and immovable. This is the kind of strength that does not push, it pulls. The kind that does not demand recognition, it commands it naturally. You should know something else. While you were enduring, while you thought progress had stalled, your inner capacity was expanding, your discernment sharpened, your intuition deepened, your tolerance for illusion dropped. You can see more clearly now who is genuine and who is performing. You no longer need evidence to validate your instincts. You trust what you sense because it has been confirmed through experience. And this is where the shift becomes undeniable. The same people who once tried to diminish you are now scrambling internally. They know on some level that they misjudged you, that aligning against you came with consequences they did not anticipate. Not dramatic punishment, but something subtler and more unsettling: stagnation. While you were rebuilding quietly, they remained stuck in the same cycles. While you evolved, they repeated themselves. There is a spiritual law at work here that few understand. When someone touches what is protected, they inherit confusion. When someone attempts to delay a purpose larger than their comprehension, they lose momentum in their own life. This is not revenge, this is balance, and balance is being restored now. You do not need to announce your growth. It is being felt. You do not need to confront those who wronged you. Their own awareness is doing that work for you. And you do not need to rush what is unfolding. Every day you remain aligned in silence. The threshold you step toward becomes more irreversible. The instruction to hold your tongue was never about fear, it was about authority. Those who are truly powerful do not argue with timelines. They move in sync with them, and you are learning to move with precision now, not urgency. That patience terrifies those who assumed you were fragile. Something is rising within you that cannot be undone. A calm certainty, a grounded knowing. You may not yet see the full outcome, but you feel its direction, and so do they. The tide has turned, quietly, yet decisively. And as it continues to turn, you remain still, not because you are powerless, but because everything is finally moving in your favor. There comes a moment when justice no longer whispers. It steps into the light. And that moment is closer than you think. What has been hidden is preparing to surface, not through your effort, but through exposure that cannot be reversed. You do not need to gather evidence. You do not need to correct perceptions. Reality itself is about to speak. And when it does, it will speak loudly enough that even those committed to misunderstanding you will be forced to pause. This is not the kind of justice that arrives with drama or spectacle at first. It begins with subtle reversals, small shifts in favor, unexplainable losses on the other side, cracks in stories that once sounded convincing. People start noticing inconsistencies they previously ignored. Questions arise where certainty once lived. And suddenly the weight you've been carrying begins to lift, not because you demanded relief, but because the truth has a self-correcting nature. You are on the brink of a public alignment, not fame, not attention, alignment, where what you've known privately begins to match what others see externally. This is why you had to endure being unseen for so long. An early spotlight would have distorted the process. An early defense would have delayed the revelation. What is unfolding now requires clean hands and a quiet spirit, and you earned both. Expect the unexpected in how this justice arrives. It may come through people distancing themselves from those who wronged you, through opportunities opening that make old narratives irrelevant, through conversations you are not part of that end with your name spoken differently. Vindication does not always look like apology. Often, it looks like irrelevance of the lie. There is also a reversal in motion. What drained you is about to fuel you. What delayed you is about to define you. Skills you develop just to survive will soon become the reasons you thrive. The patience, discernment, restraint, and emotional intelligence you were forced to cultivate, these were never just coping mechanisms. They were qualifications. And now the environment is changing to match who you have become. Take a moment and notice your internal landscape. You are no longer as reactive, no longer as desperate for validation, no longer willing to shrink to keep peace. That internal shift is the real miracle, because it means your future will not be built on proving anything. It will be built on alignment. And alignment is unstoppable once it locks in. This is also a season of healing, deeper than surface relief. Old wounds are being revisited, not to reopen them, but to finally release the residue left behind. The feeling of being misunderstood, the grief of lost relationships, the quiet shame you carried that never belonged to you. These are dissolving now. You may feel waves of emotion come and go unexpectedly. Let them. Healing is not linear, but it is thorough when allowed. You are being reminded that your sensitivity was never a flaw. It was a compass. It allowed you to sense shifts before they manifested. It made you aware of dishonesty even when it wore familiar faces. And though it cost you comfort, it preserved your soul. That preservation is what allows you to step into what's next without becoming hardened or cynical. Victory does not arrive as a loud announcement. It arrives as peace where there used to be noise, clarity where there used to be confusion, confidence where there used to be self-questioning. You are entering a phase where you no longer explain your boundaries. You enforce them naturally. Where you no longer chase belonging, you attract resonance. Where you no longer wonder if you're protected, you feel it in how obstacles move out of your way. This is the moment where your participation matters again, but in a different way than before. Not through confrontation, through alignment, through choosing responses that reflect who you are becoming, not who you were when the wounds were fresh. The call now is to stay grounded, to remain intentional, to move slowly even as momentum builds. Rapid growth without anchoring can destabilize, but you are learning how to expand without losing yourself. If this message is resonating, it's because something in you recognizes it as confirmation, not flattery, confirmation. You already knew something was shifting. This simply names it, and naming solidifies reality. If you feel called, pause here and acknowledge it quietly. You don't need to declare it publicly, just recognize it within yourself. That inner agreement is powerful. Here is where intention becomes action. Choose silence when ego wants noise. Choose observation when emotion wants reaction. Choose patience when urgency tempts you to rush. These choices are not passive, they are strategic. Each one reinforces the foundation you are standing on. Each one brings you closer to the outcome that no longer needs explanation. If you feel aligned with this message, engage with it intentionally. Stay present. Return to it when doubt creeps in. Allow it to steady you. And when you're ready, affirm, not audibly but internally, that you are open to the justice, healing, and reversal already in motion. That simple consent shifts perception into reality. What is unfolding does not need force. It needs trust. And you are learning how to trust without losing awareness. That balance is rare, It is powerful, and it is why what is coming will last. To understand why the attacks came the way they did, you have to look beneath behavior and into motivation. Most of what you faced was never truly about you. You simply stood at the intersection of other people's unresolved inner conflicts. When someone encounters a presence that reflects what they have avoided becoming, it creates discomfort. That discomfort demands an outlet. You became the mirror they did not ask for, and mirrors are often targeted first. There is a paradoxical law at work in human behavior. The more integrity someone carries, the more they are subtly tested by those who lack it. Not consciously, but instinctively. Your consistency disrupted environments built on pretense. Your authenticity exposed performance. Even when you said very little, the way you moved, the way you refused to compromise your inner alignment, communicated something confronting. People do not resent what they do not recognize. They resent what challenges their self-concept. Notice how the attacks were rarely direct at first. They appeared as passive remarks, misplaced concern, jokes that carried an edge, advice that felt slightly misaligned. That was not accidental. Indirect aggression is the language of internal conflict. It is the mind's way of projecting discomfort outward without taking responsibility for it. When someone cannot reconcile who they are with who they could be, they look for someone to diminish. Your presence made that contradiction louder. Psychologically, this pattern is well documented. When individuals feel threatened by someone else's potential, they attempt to restore balance through subtle undermining, not because the other person has done harm, but because they symbolize a standard the observer feels unable or unwilling to meet. In your case, you embodied restraint, awareness, and depth in spaces that prioritized image, speed, or control. That imbalance created friction. Another paradox you lived through is this: people who benefited from your energy were often the first to resist your growth. Growth breaks unspoken agreements. When you evolve, it disrupts dynamics that depended on your accessibility, your availability, your emotional labor. Those who once relied on you being the listener, the supporter, the stabilizer, often struggle when you outgrow that role. Their resistance is not hatred, it is fear of losing familiarity. This is why some attacks intensified when you began to set quiet boundaries, when you stopped over-explaining, when you conserved your energy. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. And when filters are implemented, anything that was drawing from you without permission is suddenly exposed. That exposure can trigger defensiveness, guilt, or hostility in those who were benefiting unconsciously. Spiritually, this marks a transition from initiation to assignment. You were not being challenged to break you. You were being trained to discern, to recognize when energy exchanges were balanced and when they were extractive. Every confrontation, misunderstanding, and moment of isolation refined that discernment. You now see patterns instead of personalities, and once you see patterns, you are no longer easily manipulated by appearances. There is also a deeper reason you had to experience opposition in this form. Your soul's mission requires sovereignty. You are here to move without needing applause, to create without needing permission, to lead without dominating. That kind of mission cannot be entrusted to someone who still reacts impulsively to criticism or seeks identity through external validation. The resistance burned those tendencies out of you, one layer at a time. You may notice now that when attempts to provoke you arise, they land differently, less emotionally, more observationally. This is not distance, it is integration. You have integrated your sensitivity with your strength. You have learned that empathy does not require access, that understanding does not require agreement, that compassion does not require self-sacrifice. These realizations mark a psychological and spiritual maturation that cannot be rushed. Another law comes into play here. People confront in others what they are unwilling to confront in themselves. The projections you absorbed were never reflections of your worth. They were reflections of others' internal dissonance. Once you internalize that truth, shame dissolves. And without shame, control mechanisms fail. That is why silence was prescribed. Words would have kept you in the loop of projection. Silence removed you from it entirely. Your purpose now is not to correct the past, but to move forward unburdened by it. The more you understand the mechanics behind what happened, the less power those experiences have over you. Awareness without resentment is liberation, and liberation is what allows your next chapter to be built on clarity, not reaction. You are not here to convince anyone of who you are. Your path is not democratic. It is deliberate. Those meant to walk with you will recognize you without explanation. Those meant to learn from you will observe quietly, and those meant to fall away already have. This is not loss. It is alignment. As this settles, you may feel a deeper sense of responsibility, not heaviness, but stewardship, of your energy, of your voice, of your silence. You now know when each is required, and that discernment ties directly to your soul's work. You are not ahead of schedule. You are precisely where integration completes and execution begins. Take a breath and feel where you are now. Not where you were when the doubt was loud, not where you were when silence felt like abandonment, but where you are in this moment. There is a steadiness here that did not exist before, a quiet confirmation that you survived something that reshaped you rather than erased you. This is where identity settles, not as something you must defend, but as something you simply carry. You are, without exaggeration, who you always sensed yourself to be. The one who walks a little ahead of the conversation. The one who feels shifts before they become visible. The one who was asked to hold more, endure longer, and speak less. Not because you were weak, but because you were trusted with weight. Being chosen was never about privilege. It was about responsibility. And you carried it with integrity, even when no one acknowledged it. Now you begin to see the outcomes forming naturally. Relationships recalibrate. Some return with new respect. Others remain distant, not out of conflict, but out of completion. Opportunities approach without needing to be chased. The chaos that once surrounded you no longer finds purchase. You are no longer easily pulled into drama, urgency, or emotional currency that does not match your depth. This is the reward of restraint. You may still have moments where old reflexes attempt to resurface, to explain, to soften truths, to make others comfortable at your own expense. Greet those moments gently and let them pass. They are remnants, not directions. You do not need to fight them. Simply choosing not to follow them is enough. Patterns lose power when they are no longer fed. There is reassurance here you can lean into. What is meant for you now unfolds with less resistance. Not because life becomes effortless, but because your alignment reduces unnecessary friction. You learned when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to let silence communicate boundaries more clearly than words ever could. This discernment will guard you far more effectively than constant vigilance. As you move forward, remember that influence does not always look like visibility. Sometimes it looks like stability in environments that crave chaos. Sometimes it looks like calm in rooms where anxiety dominates. Simply by being grounded, you shift spaces. Simply by refusing to react, you dismantle cycles. That is not accidental. That is assignment. If you feel called to acknowledge this shift, do so in a way that feels true to you. It does not need to be public. It does not need to be dramatic. A quiet intention, a moment of gratitude, a recommitment to honoring your inner instruction is enough. Spiritual alignment responds to sincerity, not spectacle. And if this message resonated, let it anchor you rather than excite you. Return to it when the world feels loud. Let it remind you that silence, when guided, is not absence. It is authority. That holding your tongue was never about shrinking, It was about allowing life to rearrange itself around your integrity. Continue walking forward with that knowing. Speak when clarity instructs you to speak. Remain quiet when wisdom asks you to wait. You are no longer searching for confirmation. You are living it. And as you move into what comes next, you do so protected, prepared, and deeply grounded. Not rushing, not retreating, simply aligned. Until our paths cross again, stay centered in what you now recognize as truth.